If you're watching this, take a second to hit the like button, drop a comment and subscribe for more sci-fi stories that push humanity to its edge. Your support keeps these interstellar tales coming, and trust me, this one is worth sticking around for. Jace Rourke kept his shoulders square as he stepped into the mercenary hangar, pretending he couldn't hear the laughter echoing off the steel walls. Rows of alien soldiers, scaled, furred, plated, or hulking, turned to study the lone human rookie threading his way through their armored ranks. Some looked amused, others curious, but most carried the unmistakable expression of disbelief. "That's the prey species recruit?" someone muttered. "He won't last a cycle." Jace pretended the words didn't sting. He'd heard worse before. Still, the sheer size of the Legion's warriors made his boots feel too light, his breath too thin. They were giants forged by hostile worlds, molded by gravity and claws. And he was just a human who'd survived by stubbornness and luck. Then the hangar lights dimmed slightly as something massive padded in behind him. A wave of silence rolled through the room. Threx, an apex predator with obsidian black hide and bioluminescent throat markings, moved with lazy power, his talons sparking tiny crackles on the reinforced floor. His eyes, sharp and silver, stayed fixed on Jace's back. When Jace paused, Threx paused. When Jace continued, Threx followed with the easy confidence of a creature that had never once been prey. The mercenary stepped back instinctively. "Great stars," someone whispered. "He brought a Dravnos 9 Apex into the base?" Jace kept his expression neutral. Threx's presence wasn't planned, but it wasn't optional either. Ever since the crash 3 months earlier, ever since Jace dragged the wounded predator from a debris field and fought off scavengers with a broken pipe, Threx had shadowed him with unwavering devotion. The bond was unexplainable, maybe impossible by most standards, but it was real. And it frightened everyone who saw it. Captain Vrax waited near the briefing platform, towering above his squad. His reptilian face was carved by old battles and older grudges, his eyes glowing with tactical suspicion. As Jace approached, Vrax's nostrils flared. "You brought the beast here," he said, voice low and gravel-edged. "He follows," Jace replied. "I don't command him." That is precisely the problem. A ripple of nervous amusement passed through the Mercs, quickly swallowed when Threx's tail swept the floor with a deep thud. Jace stopped an appropriate distance from Vrax, aware of dozens of eyes drilling into him. He resisted the urge to straighten his jacket again. "I'm here to join the Legion, Captain. I didn't ask for special treatment." "Special treatment?" Vrax's gaze flicked to Threx. "You bring a killing machine into my hangar and claim you want equality? I want a chance to prove I belong. You want to survive." Vrax folded his arms. "And that alone puts you above most rookies. Humans tend to scream when the dying starts." Jace didn't look away. "I don't scream." A few Mercs chuckled, but the sound died quickly when Threx took one deliberate step forward, muscles rolling beneath his hide. His silver eyes narrowed at the nearest mocker. "Control it," Vrax said, voice sharp. "Now." Jace placed a steady hand on Threx's thick neck. The predator lowered his head, rumbling something that vibrated through the floor before settling behind Jace again. The Mercs exchanged stunned glances. Vrax studied them both as though witnessing a paradox. "This bond shouldn't be possible," he said. "But impossible things tend to be useful." Jace didn't let that hope show. He simply asked, "Do I have a place here?" "For now," Vrax answered. "But understand this, human, the Legion has no patience for weakness. Fail to control that creature and you will be exiled from this station, if you're lucky." Jace nodded. "Understood." Vrax motioned toward the training pits. "Your evaluation begins immediately." As Jace walked, whispers followed like static. He forced himself to ignore them. The hangar was enormous, humming with engines and filled with the metallic scent of lubricants and plasma residue. It smelled like purpose. Like the life he'd wanted since he was a child staring at the stars. But purpose had teeth here. The first training test looked simple enough. A series of moving platforms and rotating barriers designed to assess reflexes. Jace stepped onto the course, muscles tense, breathing controlled. When the buzzer sounded, he sprinted. He dodged the first obstacle smoothly. The second clipped his shoulder. The third launched him off balance and he crashed into the floor hard enough to knock the wind from his lungs. Laughter rippled through the watching Mercs. Jace pushed himself up, jaw tight. He tried again. And again. Each attempt earned new bruises, and each failure deepened the mercenary's skepticism. But Jace refused to stop. Sweat soaked his shirt. His legs trembled. His palms burned. Then Threx snarled, low, guttural, primal. Not at Jace. At the Merc who sneered the loudest. The laughter died instantly. Jace swallowed hard, ashamed and grateful all at once. He finished the course at a slow, battered crawl. When he climbed out, Vrax was watching him with an unreadable expression. You persist, Vrax said. Useful. But persistence alone will not keep you alive. I'll improve, Jace said, breath ragged. You must. Because your first mission begins soon. Jace blinked. Mission. A high-risk contract, Vrax said. Something on Vorga Delta is slaughtering entire mercenary units. We deploy at dawn. A cold current slid through Jace's spine. And you want me there? I don't want you there, Vrax replied. I expect you there. Bring the Predator. If you both die, it will at least be educational. Jace stood straighter. We won't die. Vrax's lips curled into something resembling a smirk. Confidence. Dangerous in rookies. Sometimes justified. Threx nudged Jace's side with a deep rumble, as if promising support no matter the enemy. Jace exhaled slowly. Tomorrow he would face something that killed veteran Mercs. Tomorrow he would prove he wasn't prey. Tomorrow the galaxy would see what a human and an apex predator could become together. And Jace intended to survive long enough to make them believe in him. The dropship's engines rumbled like distant thunder as the Merc squad filed inside, each warrior settling into a seat designed for someone heavier, stronger, or armed with far more natural weaponry than a human could ever possess. Jace stepped in last, aware of the dozens of eyes tracking him as if he were a fragile experiment they were waiting to watch fail. Threx padded up the ramp behind him, filling the space with a territorial presence that silenced even the boldest whispers. Jace chose a seat near the corner, close enough to observe but far enough to avoid provoking anyone who still doubted his place. Threx settled against the wall beside him, lowering his head onto his forelegs with a rumbling exhale. The Predator's bioluminescent throat markings dimmed slowly, indicating a rare state of calm, though Jace doubted any of the Mercs felt reassured by it. One of them, Corin, the four-armed bruiser with skin like volcanic stone, rose from his seat. His heavy steps made the deck vibrate. He stopped in front of Jace, lowering a set of fierce amber eyes. You walk with a monster as if it's a pet, Corin said. Explain why we should trust you not to lose control of it mid-battle. Jace wanted to stand but forced himself to remain seated, knowing any sudden movement might trigger exactly the fear they accused him of causing. Threx isn't here to threaten you, he said. He protects me because I protected him. That's all. That's not all. Corin's upper right arm flexed, gripping the overhead rail. Predators don't bond with prey. Maybe he doesn't see me as prey. That answer earned a few shocked murmurs. Corin's lip curled, but he didn't press further. Threx lifted his head, silver eyes fixed on the Merc with an intensity that carried its own warning. Corin stepped back, muttering something under his breath before returning to his seat. Jace let out a quiet breath. Not victory, just one less confrontation. The dropship sealed itself, pressure hissing through the cabin. Captain Vrax stood at the center, holding onto the stabilizer rail as he addressed the squad. His voice carried the weight of someone accustomed to being obeyed instantly. Our objective is the Vorga Delta Research Outpost, he said. All transmissions stopped 31 hours ago. Recovery teams never reported back. Initial life scans show movement, but not enough to account for the missing crews. A holographic projection flickered to life beside him, displaying grainy footage, mangled equipment, scorch marks across metal walls, and something large moving past a damaged camera. The image was too distorted to identify the creature, but its mass alone sent a cold ripple down Jace's spine. This unknown hostile demonstrates adaptive armor properties, Vrax continued. Plasma resistance. Rapid regeneration. Minimal heat signature. A few Mercs cursed under their breath. Jace studied the footage again. Whatever those creatures were, they hadn't just attacked, they'd learned. Each scorch mark, each dismantled barricade suggested strategy, not instinct. Why send us in? Jace asked before he could stop himself. If other units went missing. Because we do not run, Vrax interrupted. We finish what others started. Or we die paying attention. Threx rumbled at the tone, but Jace placed a hand on his neck to keep him still. Rourke, Vrax said, turning to him, you and the beast will act as forward scouts. That creature of yours detects threats before our sensors do, and you, against my expectations, have shown a talent for staying alive. Jace nodded, though a heavy knot formed in his gut. Forward scout meant the first to die if something went wrong. The dropship shuddered as it entered Vorga Delta's atmosphere. Outside the narrow windows, bioluminescent clouds swirled like alien storms. The planet's surface emerged through the haze, a dense jungle pulsing with eerie blue light, every tree towering like spears stabbed into fog. The landing gear extended. Metal scraped gravel. The hatch opened with a blast of humid, electric air tinged with the scent of ozone and decaying foliage. The squad disembarked with disciplined precision. Jace followed, boots sinking slightly into the mossy ground. The forest sounds were muted, as if everything living was holding its breath. Threx immediately went rigid. "What is it?" Jace whispered. The predator's nostrils flared. His tail stiffened. His gaze locked onto the shadows beyond the trees. Before Jace could signal a warning, a ripple of movement flashed across the underbrush, fast, low, and coordinated. 3 insectoid shapes burst from the vegetation, chittering in a way that made Jace's teeth ache. They moved like armored hunters, their bodies sleek and glistening under the planet's strange light. Chaos erupted. Mercenaries raised rifles, firing bursts of plasma. The shots struck the creatures, but the damage healed almost instantly, wounds knitting together like liquid metal. One creature lunged at Corrin, its mandibles snapping shut inches from his throat. He barely dodged the strike, landing a blow with his upper arms that sent the creature tumbling, but not far enough. Another creature leapt directly toward Jace. Threx intercepted it mid-air. The apex predator slammed the attacker into the ground, snarling with a ferocity that drowned out every other sound. His claws carved through the creature's armor, tearing apart limbs with shocking ease. The creature shrieked, a sound that resonated with something primal and terrified, before going silent. The remaining 2 hesitated. That alone stunned the mercenaries. They could feel fear. Threx roared, a deep, resonant blast that shook leaves from nearby branches. The remaining attackers retreated into the forest, vanishing as quickly as they had appeared. Silence reclaimed the clearing. Everyone stared at Threx, who stood over the fallen creature with fluid dominance, his hide glowing faintly as adrenaline surged through him. Vrax approached, eyes narrowed in analytical confusion. "That thing," he said, "just drove off a pack of predators designed to kill us." Jace wiped sweat from his brow. "He's not just strong. He's aware. He understood their intent before any of us." "Then we use that advantage," Vrax said. "Stay close to your beast, Rork. It may be the only reason any of us survive what's deeper in this jungle." A branch snapped in the distance. A tremor followed, slow, deliberate, heavier than anything that had attacked them so far. Threx turned toward the sound, every muscle coiled. Whatever had been hunting the outpost wasn't finished. And now it knew the Legion had arrived. The deeper the squad pushed into Vorgadelta's jungle, the more the forest felt like a living organism studying them. Bioluminescent vines pulsed faintly overhead, casting wavering light across shattered outpost structures half swallowed by moss. Every snapped twig, every rustle in the canopy carried the tension of something calculating their next move. Threx moved ahead, muscles taut, head low, nostrils flaring with purpose. Jace followed close behind, keeping his breathing steady even as unease crept along his spine. The mercenaries maintained a tight formation, weapons sweeping arcs across the terrain, but the jungle still felt too quiet, like predators were matching their steps without revealing themselves. Corrin crouched at a torn-open supply crate, running one thick finger along the melted metal edge. "Plasma didn't do this," he said. "Something ate through it. Fast." Vrax examined a trail of resin coating the ground. "Vorcash," he muttered. "A hive species. Adaptive. Highly territorial." Jace glanced at him. "Are they the ones who destroyed the outposts?" "They don't simply destroy," Vrax answered. "They conquer, replicate, and improvise. They learn from every kill." Jace had suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed made his stomach twist. Vorcash weren't just predators, they were evolving strategists. Threx released a low growl, head snapping toward a narrow canyon ahead. His throat markings brightened as if warning something in the dark. "We move," Vrax ordered. The squad advanced cautiously, stepping through broken fencing and past shattered drones. A message smeared in dried blood covered one crumpled blast door. "IT learns." Jace felt the words cling to him like cold fingers. Whoever left it died knowing the creatures were growing smarter with every encounter. The canyon funneled them into a tight path flanked by towering cliffs coated in alien fungus. The air thickened, buzzing with a faint ultrasonic hum that made Jace's skull ache. Threx stopped abruptly. "What do you see?" Jace whispered. Threx lowered himself, scanning the shadows with a predator's precision. His tail twitched once, warning of imminent danger. "It's watching us," Jace said softly. Vrax nodded. "Form defensive positions." The squad tightened their circle, weapons aimed outward. The ultrasonic hum grew sharper, vibrating through the stone walls. Then it stopped, too suddenly. Jace didn't breathe. The first attack came from above. A massive Vorcash soldier dropped from the cliffside, slamming into the squad with seismic force. Its carapace shimmered with shifting colors, adapting instantly to the weapons aimed at it. Plasma shots ricocheted off as harmless sparks. Another creature burst from a fissure in the wall, mandibles snapping. A third emerged behind them, cutting off the rear escape. The canyon became a killbox. Corrin charged the nearest creature with a bellow, all four arms driving a kinetic shock hammer into its torso. The blow cracked the carapace but didn't drop the beast. It retaliated with a bladed forelimb that sliced across Corrin's upper shoulder, sending him staggering. Jace rushed forward without thinking. He swung his rifle like a club, striking the creature's sensory ridge. It howled, momentarily disoriented. "Move!" Jace shouted, dragging Corrin out of the creature's reach. Corrin stared at him, shocked that a human had pulled him clear of a killing blow. There was no time for gratitude. The largest Vorcash pushed through the fray, towering above the rest, its armor plates shifting in mesmerizing patterns. It fixed its multifaceted gaze on Threx. And Threx charged. The two collided with a thunderous impact that shook dust from the canyon walls. Threx tore into the creature with feral precision, ripping through joints and soft segments, dodging blade-like limbs. The Vorcash fought back with terrifying intelligence, adjusting angles mid-strike, learning Threx's patterns almost instantly. The others advanced again. Jace forced calm into his voice as he took cover behind a fallen boulder. "They're adapting. Don't repeat attacks, change your angles." Vrax snapped a look at him, surprised. The mercenaries adjusted their strikes accordingly. Instead of direct hits, they aimed for weak joints, exposed membranes and unstable footing. Jace's earth training, improvised, desperate, born of surviving ambushes, fit perfectly against the Vorcash instinct for pattern recognition. Plasma bolts cracked across the canyon, forcing the creature to shift its armor's focus. Corrin came in from behind, swinging the shock hammer in a spiraling arc the creature hadn't anticipated. The impact crushed its rear carapace, dropping it to the ground. The squad gained momentum. But the biggest creature still pressed Threx back, screeching in frequencies that made the air vibrate. It pinned Threx against a jagged outcrop, mandibles closing around his shoulder. Jace's heart locked in his chest. "Threx!" With a sound that reverberated through the canyon like a rolling storm, Threx unleashed a roar unlike anything he'd produced before. It wasn't just volume, it was force, a sonic blast that cracked the stone beneath them. The Vorcash staggered, armor flickering in confusion, momentarily stunned. Threx surged upward, drove his claws into its neck ridge and wrenched it sideways. The massive creature toppled, thrashing violently before falling still. The canyon fell into heavy silence. The mercenaries stared at Threx with a mixture of awe and fear. Even Vrax looked unsettled. Nobody said it aloud, but it was clear. The Vorcash considered Threx a threat worth targeting first. Which meant they recognized him as an apex rival. Jace scanned the carnage, chest heaving. "They were hurting us," he said. "They forced us into the canyon to learn our fighting patterns." Vrax slowly nodded. "They adapt quickly, but they also fear competition." His eyes shifted to Threx. "They want him. They'll try to capture him. Maybe even absorb his strength." Jace crouched beside Threx, inspecting the wounds forming along his shoulder. "They're not done. This wasn't a full assault." "Correct," Vrax said. "This was reconnaissance. The hive knows we're here now." A distant tremor rippled through the earth, slow, heavy, unmistakably deliberate. It traveled through stone like the heartbeat of something colossal waiting beneath the surface. Jace swallowed hard. The Vorcash queen had begun to take notice. The tremor beneath the mercenaries' boots didn't fade. It deepened, rolling through the canyon floor like something vast was shifting beneath the soil, pushing roots and stone aside as easily as breath. Jace steadied himself, one hand gripping Threx's thick hide. The predator leaned subtly into the touch, his muscles coiled but no longer trembling from the earlier fight. He was wounded, but his eyes burned with defiant clarity. Vrax raised a closed fist, signaling silence. The squad obeyed instantly, weapons angled outward, breaths held. The jungle canopy above them rustled in long, sweeping waves as if pulled by an unseen tide. A sound followed, low, resonant, not a roar, not a growl, something more deliberate and almost metallic. It vibrated in the chest and skull at once. "The queen," Vrax murmured. "She's close." Corin wiped blood from his shoulder with one of his uninjured arms. "We need higher ground," he growled. "If she's burrowing, we're standing in her hunting field." "Agreed," Jace said before remembering he technically had no command authority. But Vrax didn't snap at him. Instead, he studied Jace briefly, as though recalibrating his assessment with every passing moment. "She adapts," Vrax said, "but she also observes. A retreat may provoke pursuit. A climb may trigger an ambush." "So what's the move?" Jace asked. Threx's head tilted as he sniffed the shifting air currents. His markings brightened faintly, pulsing in a steady rhythm. Then he stepped toward a cluster of dense vegetation and nudged it aside with his snout, revealing not a path but a vertical tunnel of roots spiraling upward around a hollowed trunk. Vrax raised a brow. "A vantage point." Jace nodded. "He senses something up there. A way out of her direct line." The squad entered without argument this time, trusting Threx more than the jungle. The climb was steep, roots twisting like ladders carved by nature's restless hand. At the top, the trunk opened onto a ridge overlooking the valley, a vantage point offering a sweeping view of the jungle basin, the broken outpost structures and the canyon they had just escaped. But what arrested every gaze was the shape shifting beneath the foliage. A massive mound of soil bulged unnaturally, splitting into wide cracks. Segmented armor plates emerged from the ground, each the size of a dropship wing. They shimmered and changed color in ways that suggested constant, conscious regulation. The creature beneath made the very earth rise and fall with its movement. The Vorcash queen was enormous. Not insectoid in the way her drones were, but something more ancient, more fused with the planet itself, like a living engine wrapped in exoskeletal armor. Even Vrax whispered something that sounded suspiciously like awe. "We cannot face her directly," he said. "She'll shred us before we get within striking distance." "Then we don't face her directly," Jace said, mind already racing. "We draw her attention away from the hive. Force her into unfamiliar terrain. Make her lose patterns." Vrax turned slowly. "You want to confuse a creature built on perfect adaptation. It's worked on every other Vorcash so far." Jace took a breath. "And Threx can outmaneuver her. She's tracking him specifically. He can lead her away." Threx rumbled, a sound that blended challenge with reluctant agreement. Corin let out an incredulous snort. "You're suggesting we let your monster pick a fight with the queen alone?" "Not alone," Jace said. "With me." Silence dropped over the squad like a stone. Vrax stared at him as though trying to decipher whether Jace was brave or catastrophically foolish. "You are a rookie," he said finally. "Ill-trained. Under-equipped. Overmatched by even a drone, let alone the queen." Jace nodded. "All true. Then why volunteer?" "Because she won't expect unpredictability. She won't expect someone she considers prey to challenge her. And she won't expect Threx and me to fight as one." Vrax's jaw shifted, the closest he ever came to showing conflicted emotion. "If you die, then you finish the mission," Jace said. "But if we succeed, the hive loses its center. Its drones lose direction. The outpost might be salvageable." Corin stepped forward, his massive form casting a shadow over Jace. "Human," he said with uncharacteristic seriousness, "you saved my life. If you run into that thing, you better run fast. And if you fall," he paused, "I will carry what's left of you to your people." "That was almost comforting," Jace said. Threx nudged him sharply, as if reminding him there was no time for sentiment. The predator's wounds glowed faintly, knitting together at a pace that was both reassuring and unsettling. Vrax motioned toward the far end of the ridge. "The moment you engage her, the drones will react. We will intercept them. Buy you time." He paused. "Rourke, do not mistake this for approval. It is strategy." Jace offered a thin smile. "I'll take strategy." The ground below split fully open. The queen erupted from the earth with terrifying speed, her massive limbs gouging deep trenches into the soil as she hauled her body free. Her armor reflected the light in rippling patterns, shifting rapidly as she tested the air with sensory filaments. Threx stiffened beside Jace. She had sensed him. The queen's head swiveled, faceted eyes locking onto the ridge with an intelligence that chilled Jace more than her size. She let out a roar that bent branches and sent flocks of creatures scattering across the jungle canopy. Jace swung onto Threx's back, gripping the thick mane along his spine. Threx's muscles surged under him. "You ready?" Jace whispered. Threx answered with a roar that echoed the queen's challenge. The queen charged. Jace felt his heartbeat sync with the predator beneath him. Together they leapt from the ridge, straight toward the waiting monster. The explosion ripped through the canyon with a sound that seemed to shake the very atmosphere, tearing leaves from the trees and hurling shards of rock like missiles. Jace felt the force beneath him as Threx vaulted through the shockwave, muscles coiled, talons gripping the uneven ground. The queen screamed, a sound that reverberated through bone and metal alike, a mixture of rage, pain, and disbelief. Her massive form tumbled back into the fissure she had emerged from, armor cracking in a cascade of molten chitin. The hive's tremor ceased. The adaptive swarm froze as if the entire collective held its breath. Jace rolled off Threx, landing hard but controlled. Blood slicked his palms and smeared across his forearms, but his heartbeat was steady, adrenaline sharpening every sense. Threx shook his massive head, shimmering markings flickering like living starlight, each pulse an echo of their shared triumph. Despite his wounds, the predator rose to full height, eyes scanning the canyon, ensuring no threat remained. The Merc squad approached cautiously, moving over shattered earth and fallen drones, wary of another ambush that would never come. Corrin broke the silence first, a deep, low laugh rumbling from his chest. "I've seen a lot of things in my years," he said, voice hoarse, "but nothing like that." Vrax emerged from the shadow of a toppled structure, gaze fixed on Jace and Threx. The stoicism that had defined him since the hangar now softened slightly, tempered by awe and reluctant respect. "You were insane," he said, words almost lost beneath the settling dust. "And yet, somehow you survived. Both of you. Against the queen." Jace wiped sweat and grime from his brow, shoulders sagging with exhaustion. "We adapted. She didn't expect us to think outside the hive's patterns." His voice carried a quiet pride, not arrogance. He met Vrax's gaze. "We survived because we worked together." Threx rumbled in affirmation, a low vibration that resonated through Jace's chest. The predator moved closer, nudging Jace gently with a massive snout, a silent acknowledgement of trust and loyalty that transcended words. Corrin stepped forward, offering a hand smeared with blood and soot. "You saved me back there," he said. "And you earned every bit of the respect you never asked for." Jace took it, feeling the weight of recognition from someone who had doubted him hours ago. Around them, the Mercs began to nod, some offering silent gestures of acknowledgement that human pride had rarely earned in their ranks. Vrax turned toward the horizon, where the first light of dawn spilled over the alien canopy. "We need a report," he said. His tone was still official, commanding, but there was an undercurrent of something softer, a subtle admission that the impossible had happened. "Rorke, you and the beast will be the centerpiece. The galaxy will want to know how a human with a creature like that, turned the tide." Jace glanced at Threx, noting the faint shimmer of healing wounds along his massive shoulders and flanks. "We did what had to be done," he said. "Not for glory. Not for recognition. For survival, and for each other." The first comms squad arrived to record reports and capture imagery of the battlefield. As the lenses focused on Jace and Threx, the rookie scout finally allowed himself a quiet, wry smile. He had entered this mission underestimated, mocked, and dismissed. Now he was no longer merely a human among monsters. He was a strategist, a fighter, and the companion of a predator that could rewrite what the galaxy believed possible. Vrax approached once more, placing a clawed hand on Jace's shoulder in a gesture heavy with significance. "Field Commander," he said, the title almost tasting strange on his tongue. "I did not foresee this outcome. I may never admit it again. But you've earned your place. And so has the creature that follows you." Jace nodded, his throat tight with the unspoken weight of what this moment meant. "We'll continue to earn it, sir. One mission at a time." He glanced at Threx, who rumbled softly, a deep vibration that seemed to convey agreement, loyalty, and anticipation all at once. The Mercs began gathering survivors, tending wounds, and preparing the outpost for recovery. The battle had left a scar across the jungle, but it had also carved a legend, one of human ingenuity and predatory allegiance. Jace stood atop a jagged rock, looking down at the jungle floor strewn with broken Vorcash drones, shattered equipment, and the echo of a queen defeated. A flicker of movement caught his eye. Even now the forest teemed with life. But the predators that had once threatened the squad now retreated, hesitant, wary of the apex duo that had bested the hive. Corrin approached again, placing a hand on Jace's other shoulder. "You weren't just a rookie," he said, voice low. "You were the spearhead. And you carried us all through hell." Jace shook his head, a quiet chuckle escaping. "We carried each other," he said. I just happened to ride the biggest monster in the galaxy while doing it. Threx growled softly in agreement, sending a shiver through Jace's spine. Vrax activated a comm channel. Report incoming. The Legion will announce the details. Your actions, Rorke, will redefine human capability in the field. Apex Predator integration protocols will be updated. Other units will look to you as the benchmark. You should be proud. I am, Jace admitted quietly, glancing at Threx. The Predator's head tilted slightly, as if acknowledging the subtle weight of accomplishment without human sentimentality. They had survived. They had won. And they had done so together. The squad began preparing for extraction. The shuttle's engines warmed with a low hum, ready to carry survivors back to safer grounds. As Jace mounted Threx for the final walk to the evacuation point, he looked over his shoulder at the battlefield. The Queen's massive form had been vanquished, her drones scattered, but the memory of the fight lingered, a reminder that danger would return, but so would their vigilance. Ready for the next one? He asked Threx, voice calm but carrying the thrill of survival and anticipation of challenges yet to come. The Predator rumbled, a sound that resonated deep, steady, and approving. Jace's lips curved into a grin. Together, human and apex Predator strode toward the shuttle, leaving behind a battlefield that would echo their legend across the galaxy. As the dropship lifted into the alien sky, Jace allowed himself one last glance at Vorga. The jungle stretched endlessly, mysterious, dangerous, and alive. Somewhere in its depths, threats remained, waiting for the next challenge. But for now they had triumphed and the galaxy had a new story to tell. A human and a Predator not as master and pet, but as partners equal in skill, courage, and loyalty. The sun rose over the horizon, gilding the jungle canopy in gold and silver light. Jace exhaled, feeling a rare, unspoken satisfaction. Legends were born not from ease or comfort, but from facing the impossible, and surviving. And as long as Threx walked beside him, there was nothing the galaxy could throw at them that would break their bond. The dropship vanished into the morning sky, leaving Vorga behind, a silent witness to a human who had earned respect not through fear, but through courage, and a Predator who had chosen loyalty over instinct. The story of their triumph would ripple outward, carried on whispers, transmissions, and tales that would inspire awe, fear, and admiration across countless worlds. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, a new mission waited, but Jace smiled at the thought. Whatever came next, he and Threx would face it together.